have they? That's good. Removing barriers to digital transformation. That's the magic.
How many buzz? Yeah, what is it? Buzzword bingo, or whatever they say.
This is where the challenge is, right? When you get a guy who's got 10 minutes to talk, followed by 20, followed by a 20.
He was here. True. He was way ahead of time.
The guy from Microsoft, though, Richard Pears, he was just chatting. You were chatting to him at lunchtime, and he was telling me about the story of when they met you somewhere else, and you went to wine and dine with them, and then
I called him.
And then you called him IBM.
IBM, yeah, that was Well,
That's a. Okay. Ooh, sorry. That'll wake you all up. And me. Right, we've got 5 presentations between now and a cup of coffee. But they're ones that are worthwhile listening to. The first 3 are under the broad umbrella of removing barriers to digital transformation. I reckon if we had to sit and list the barriers that exist, there might be quite a long list, but we've got an opportunity to get those sort of issues addressed from 3 different angles. The first of them is from Pilo, who is from SecuredTouch, and it's about sort of looking at some of the issues around the password side. So rather than me do his presentation for him, Asaf, time for you to join the stage.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. So right after lunch, other people want to have a nap, or they're very happy and content. I think that everyone is happy and content around this room. So my name is Asaf. I'm VP Sales for SecuredTouch. We're an Israeli-based startup. And what we do is behavioral biometrics. Unlike traditional biometrics, we use the physical sensors on mobile devices and desktops as well to authenticate real people, not devices, not users, not credentials, but real people. I'm going to try today to hopefully discuss and present the ways that you can use behavioral biometrics to reduce fraud, minimize customer friction, and increasing productivity, increasing the ways that the agile and quick and dynamic and innovative way people do business with banks, as well as overall enhancing security levels. So I've received my first smartphone around 10 years ago. I was so happy that I could have emails. I had a low-res camera and Google, and it was pretty amazing. Nowadays we have millions of apps, some of which, these are some of the apps I regularly use, around 20 to 30 apps that I use to order my cabs, order food, groceries, travel, take train rides, pretty much everything, order merchandise, and very frequently use my banking applications, credit card applications, payment applications. So every week, almost every day, I'm required to provide passwords, OTPs, text messages to authenticate myself over and over. But I use this device around 15 hours a day. So this device knows me. This device knows how I normally use my phone. I use two hands, I use a specific finger. I do things pretty regularly. So if this device knows me, all these companies should know me as well, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. So better user experience. We have some traditional biometrics like fingerprints, face recognition, eye scans, and these are all good, but these are also all features because I can unlock my phone with a fingerprint, but I can also unlock it using a PIN. So if it's using a PIN, it's not really a security feature. It is a user experience feature, which is very nice. And some people are also concerned about privacy. So do I want my face everywhere? Do I want my eye scan? It can be used in other applications as well. So traditional biometrics are kind of tricky, and passwords, we've been using passwords forever. Again, why do I need to remember 30, 40 passwords, some of which need to change every quarter or every couple of quarters? Very difficult. So this creates friction with customers, and customers where if they have a lot of friction, they have a hard time doing business with a bank or with other organizations. And the market is really pushing, and banks are competing each other over the user experience, over how smooth things are, how much can I do without having that friction. And there are sayings about banks losing more money to customers moving to other banks due to user experience or lack of good user experience than fraud, for instance. So that's pretty amazing. If we talk about the security angle, do you really know your users? I mean, does anyone who will hold this phone and will obtain somehow my password will have access to my bank account, and the bank will not know that it's not me who's holding the phone. I mean, they will know that someone knows my credentials. That's pretty much it. Even if with a text message, with an OTP, still, if someone holds my phone and has access to my phone, they will have access to my SMSs and everything else. So account takeovers, credential theft, bots, I mean malware, bots running on mobile phones, doing things on behalf of users. Again, on the back-end side, on the bank side, it's very difficult to discover, as well as emulators used for automated attacks. Most attacks on mobile are done on emulators, and because they can be automated and they can be run in large scales. So it's another need, another concern as far as fraud goes. So what we did at SecuredTouch, we said, okay, there are a lot of sensors in this small machine. This is actually, it's a computer. It has physical sensors such as screens, gyroscopes, accelerometers, and people have very fixed behaviors. We see here on the left-hand side 7 different users using the same app, and on the very right-hand side we see a bot using the same app. And we see that some people swipe or scroll from right to left, some use more of the screen, some less of the screen. These are just XY coordinates, 2 parameters out of over 100 that we check on each device. So people have a tendency to follow a very typical behavior, which can be then put into a profile. We use, as I mentioned, around 100 parameters. So pressure on the screen, size of the fingerprint, not the actual fingerprint, but size measured by pixels. Some people swipe all along the screen. Some do small swipes or scrolls. The overall coverage or boundaries of the screen that people use, right-hand side, left-hand side, center, etc. Then we add to that the gyroscope. The gyroscope tells us if you're holding the phone on the right hand, left hand, if you're standing up, if you're sitting down. So the tilt of the phone, the angle of the phone, and adding to that the accelerometer, which tells us about the shakes of the phone. So even small taps, when I use the keyboard, the phone shakes. And we can take all these parameters, put them together after a very smart analysis and algorithms into a user profile using machine learning, not rule-based, so that we're not looking for a specific pattern, but we're looking for the typical behavior of that user, and produce a trust score. That trust score runs between 0 to 1,000. 0 is for sure not the user. 1,000 this is for sure the user. So if we look at a typical, first of all, architecture and then use case of the solution, on the left-hand side, we have the mobile device. Our solution on the mobile device is an SDK, which is attached to iOS or Android apps, or a JavaScript that can run on the mobile web application. All that SDK does is gather the data from the sensors, the data that we get the privileges to access those sensors from the app itself, send it to the SecuredTouch server that can be either in the cloud or in the bank. Most banks prefer, obviously, to have it on-prem. And during 4 or 5 sessions, transparently with no enrollment, we build the initial profile of users. So it takes about 4 sessions, 5 sessions. Overall, we need about 100 gestures, but we want to have it across different sessions in order to capture as much natural and different behavior of that same user. And producing the trust score. So the trust score runs between 0 to 1,000, and that trust score is continuous from the moment I log in, so the moment the session starts, until I log out from the app. So the app has to be open. It's an SDK. It's not running in the background the whole